My name is Alaina Kovalenko. I'm 32 years old. And on the evening of July 28th, 2025, while folding laundry in a quiet little house in Ohio, my heart stopped beating and I died. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a politician. I was a refugee. Just a few years ago, I was an architect in Kharkiv, Ukraine. My husband makes hymn, and I had just finished renovating our small apartment to daughter, Yana, who was 4. The time had her own room, painted like a field of sunflowers. I remember the smell of the paint, the sound of her laughter echoing in the empty rooms. That was my life. Normal life. Bills, dinner plans, worrying if Yana would eat her vegetables. Then the world fell apart. When the invasion started, him stayed to fight, I took Yana and Ram. We spent weeks in basements on crowded trains, hearing sounds no child should ever hear. We ended up here in America with a wonderful host family, the Millers. They gave us a safe room and warm food. I found a job cleaning houses. I was grateful. So incredibly grateful, but every single night my heart was a cold heavies. Stone in my chest. Every news report, every phone call I missed. From mock them, it was like a little piece of me died each day. My prayers felt weak, like whispers lost in a hurricane. I was just so tired that evening I was pulling one of Yanya's little t-shirts from the dryer. It still smelled like the sunshine from outside. I remembered my own. Mother's hands, how they'd fold laundry with such care. A sharp pain like a hot knife went through my chest. So fast, so sudden, I didn't even have time to scream. All I thought was mock them, then blackness, but it wasn't an empty blackness. It was just a pause, a silence. The pain was gone. The weight in my chest was gone. The constant buzzing fear I'd lived with for years, it just evaporated. I opened my eyes. Not my real eyes, but some other way of seeing. I was floating near the ceiling of the laundry room. I could see my body on the floor, crumpled between the washer and a basket of clean towels. It looked so small. So fragilely, I felt a strange detachment, like watching a movie. I saw Lisa, my host mom, run into the room. She screamed my name. Her husband, Brandon, started doing CPR. I saw it all, but I couldn't feel the panic. There was no fear. It was the strangest peace I have ever known. I saw my little Yona peeking from around the door. Frame, her eyes wide with terror, a wave of love so powerful it was almost painful washed over me, my baby. I wanted to rush to her, to tell her it was okay, but I couldn't. I was just watching. Then all I began to feel the room. It wasn't like a light bulb turning on. It was more like the sun was rising right there in the hallway. It was warm, golden, and it pulled at me gently. The laundry room, Lisa, my own body, to it all. Started to fade away like a dream you can't hold on to when you wake up. I let go. I felt myself being drawn into this. Beautiful, all-consuming, like I wasn't floating anymore. I was standing, there was no floor, no walls, no sky, just this endless warmth and light. And in the center of it, a figure stood. It was Jesus. I know people have tried to describe him for 2,000 years, but words are such small, clumsy tools. He wasn't like any painting I'd ever seen. The light didn't shine on him. The light came from him. It was woven into his being, his face. I can tell you the color of his eyes, but I can tell you what was in them. He looks at me, and I felt like he'd been watching me my entire life. Not in a judging way. He saw every mistake I ever made, every selfish thought, every time my faith flickered and went out, and he looked at me with a love so pure, so absolute. It broke me tears, filled my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of release. Every wall I had built around my heart, every bit of pain and anger and grief from the war, it all just melted away under his gaze. I didn't have to explain anything he already knew. He knew my exhaustion. He knew my fear for Maxim. He knew the guilt I carried for leaving my home. He didn't speak with a voice that travels through the air. His words were just they're inside my soul. They felt like truth itself. Peace, my child, he said. You are home. I fell to my knees. I couldn't speak. I just wept. I'd felt so alone for so long. And in that moment, I was more known. and more love than I could have ever imagined. He let me cry. He just stood there, his presence a blanket of perfect peace, until my spirit grew quiet. He reached out his hand and a scene appeared before us. I saw my husband. Then he was in a trench, mud caked on his face, his uniform torn. He was holding a small worn photo of me and Yorna. His lips were moving. He wasn't saying anything out loud, just whispering my name over and so over a prayer. Jesus looked at me. I hear everyone, he said. Not a single one is last. Then the scene shifted. My heart grew heavy again, because I knew what he was about to show me was not for my comfort. It was for the world. You have seen the war of men, he said, his voice now filled with a deep, holy sorrow. Now I will show you the wall behind the wall. The light around us dimmed, and I saw a room, a grand, opulent room, with dark wood and heavy curtains. I recognized it from the news. 2 men were sitting at a long, polished table. It was Putin and the American President Donald Trump. They were talking about the ceasefire, the one the whole world was praying for, but what I saw next is what I can never forget. Behind Putin, there was a shadow. It wasn't just the physical shadow from the lights in the room. It was a living thing, a being of immense pride and darkness. It didn't have horns or a pitchfork. That's a human invention. It was a being made of pure arrogance. It leaned close to Putin's ear, and though I couldn't hear its words, I could feel what it was whispering. It showed him visions of a restored Russian Empire greater than ever before. It fed his ego, telling him he was a man of destiny, a historic figure chosen to restore glory. It twisted his sense of history, his sense of faith, making him believe his brutal actions were somehow righteous, a holy calling. I saw that the ceasefire to him was not about peace. It was a strategy, a pause. The dark being was whispering to him, they are weak. Renewity is a lie. They will grow tired. Let them celebrate their peace. Use this time to rearm, to gather strength, and then when they are sleeping, you will finish what you started. You will take it all. My soul trembled. The deception was so thick, so powerful. Then I looked at President Trump behind him. There wasn't one single dark entity. It was different. It was like a cloud of smaller chattering spirits. Spirits of flattery, spirits of ego, spirits of confusion. They were all whispering to him at once, you are the great deal maker, only you can do this. They will build statues of you. You are the peacemaker the world has been waiting for. He believed he was controlling the situation. He believed he was making the deal of a lifetime, securing his legacy, but he couldn't see what was really in the room. He was shaking hands with a man, but he was making a deal with the prideful spirit that was pulling his strings. He was blind to the deep spiritual poison that was driving his opponent. He saw a political rival, not a vessel for a much older, darker ambition. Jesus. His voice cut through the vision. Men debate politics and borders and economies, but they are fighting shadows. The enemy's greatest weapon is not the bomb. It is the whisper of pride. In the era of a powerful man, the whisper that says, you are a god. The scene then zoomed out, and my breath caught in my throat. I saw my homeland, Ukraine, but I saw it with spiritual eyes over the land. A great battle was raging in the heavens. I saw legions of dark, shadowy beings, like a storm cloud of locusts, trying to descend to cover the land. In hopelessness and despair, but they couldn't, because I saw angels bright, glorious warrior angels. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their swords of light, holding back the darkness. They were forming a shield, a wall of divine protection over my country. And I saw what gave them their strength from all over the world. Little lights began to rise up toward the heavens. They looked like tiny golden threads. I saw one rise from a small church in Oklahoma, where a group of old women were on their knees. I saw one rise from a college dorm room in Brazil, where a young student was praying before bed. I saw one rise from a mother in Poland crying as she packed supplies. I saw one rise from Maximum, that muddy trench. Every prayer, every single heartfelt prayer was a threat of light that went directly to these warrior angles, it strengthened their shields, it sharpened their swords. Jesus showed me a specific moment a Russian missile was launched. I saw the dark spirits guiding it, trying to direct it toward a hospital full of children. But then a flood of prayer, a wave of those golden threads came from a church service that was happening at that exact moment in California. The prayers hit the angelic shield. The shield flared with brilliant light, and I saw the missile's guidance system suddenly fritz out. It veered off course and exploded harmlessly in an empty floor. The people in that church would never know what they had done. They just thought they were having their usual Sunday prayer meeting. They had no idea that their combined faith, their focused prayers, had just saved hundreds of lives thousands of miles away. This Jesus, said, his voice ringing with power, is how the war is won not in the grand halls of men, but in the humble closets of prayer. The enemy wants you to watch the news and feel hopeless. He wants you to trust entreaties and politicians because he knows that if my people truly understood the power of their prayers, his kingdom of shadows would fall apart. I looked around confused. I saw Lisa, my host mom, in the corner of the room, her face pale, her hands covering her mouth as she sobbed in relief. My mind was reeling. The laundry room, the light, Jesus. The vision, was it real? The first word I managed to speak was a hoarse whisperer. Yana, she's safe. Lisa choked out, rushing to my side. She's with Brandon. As parents, oh, Alana, we thought we lost your doctor. Came in later. He had a file in his hands and a look of complete disbelief on his face. Mrs. Kovalenko, he started clearing his throat. I'm Dr. Matthews. I need you to understand what happened. Your heart stopped. You had no pulse, no brain activity. 23 minutes. By all medical standards, you should not be here. And even if you were, you should have severe catastrophic brain damage. But your scans are perfectly normal. We have no medical explanation for this. I just looked at him and nodded. A quiet tear rolled down my cheek. I had an explanation. I had seen the wall behind the wall, and I had been sent back to tell the story. So that is my message to you. I'm not a theologian. I am not a political expert. I'm a mother from Harki who was allowed to see behind the curtain for 2003 minutes. You will see the news, you will hear about the meetings, the handshakes, the deadlines, and the temporary peace, and the world will tell you to put your hope in those things. But I am here to tell you, as someone who has stood in the presence of Christ himself, do not put your faith in the plans of proud men. They are blind. They cannot see the puppet masters who whisper or in their ears. The real power is in your hands. It's in your quiet room, on your knees. It's in your church. When you gather together and lift your voices, your prayers are not empty words that vanish into the air. They are weapons. They are light. They are the fuel for the angelic armies that are holding back a tide of darkness you cannot imagine. Jesus sent me back to ask you not to stop. Don't get tired. Don't. Get distracted by the political theatre. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Yes, but pray for the leaders of the world. Pray that their eyes would be opened. Pray that God would shatter the pride in their hearts and to expose the deception of the enemy.